This is Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details. Here are your hosts, Joe, Matt, and Chris.
Welcome into Between the Uprights. I'm Joe, that's Matt. Chris couldn't be with us here today, but our thoughts go out to her. She's recovering from an illness. Hope to have her back really soon. But that doesn't mean we're not going to be giving you all of that great football breakdown that you come to Between the Uprights for. But before we get into that, please hit that like and subscribe button. It would mean a lot to us here at Between the Uprights if you could do that. So go ahead and do that right now for me. Before we get into all this, we'd greatly appreciate it. Now, Monday Night Football wraps up. You have the winner, the only true New York team in the NFL because they actually play in the fucking state of New York and not Meadowlands, New Jersey. The Buffalo Bills come away with the win and solid control of the AFC East after they beat the Jets on a questionable throw in which Mike Williams may or may not have ran the correct route based on what Aaron Rodgers is saying. I don't know what the red line is, and I've never heard that as a term for a route. Obviously, Aaron and the Jets use that somewhere in their offensive scheme. What the red line is, I'm going to keep going like this with red line because I don't actually know what the fuck it means. But to me, that ball is the second week in a row that Mike Williams, who is one of the best 50-50 ball catchers that I've ever seen or has been in the NFL for a decent amount of time. Right now, he's top. I think if you think of 50-50 ball guys, Mike Williams is one of the guys that pops in my head. We've seen him countless times go up and catch a ball as a Charger with 2 or 3 guys hanging on to him and all this stuff. And it's 2 weeks in a row that Aaron Rodgers has not given him an opportunity to utilize that skill, utilize that vertical and go up with those hands and bring a ball down in a game-winning situation. He did it against the Vikings in London where he underthrew him, which was looked to be like a very poor back shoulder throw that Stephon Gilmore had to fall down to pick. And this one, it looked like Mike Williams was breaking to the sideline. I believe it should have been an over the shoulder throw for a toe tap catch. He threw it down the center of the field. Mike Williams falls down. It gets picked on what is actually just a really good athletic play in my book by the Buffalo Bills. And now the Jets are 2-4. They just fired their head coach. However, both of these teams' offenses have not looked all that explosive, and they have both come out and said, you know what? You're right. We need to fix it. The Jets trade for Aaron Rodgers' buddy back in Green Bay, Davante Adams. They bring the 31-year-old, soon to be 32-year-old in December on the 24th, Christmas Eve. He will turn 32 to pair with Aaron Rodgers to provide a spark to this offense and get the Jets back into the playoff conversation. Meanwhile, the Bills, they said, you know what? We see you, New Jersey Jets. I'm joking, New York Jets. I'm not going to play that game today. We're going to do the same because we got to keep pace with you. And we know that if you guys get hot, you're going to be a problem for us in this division. They go out and grab 30-year-old Amari Cooper from the struggling Browns. Now, both of these trades were very equal in about how, the NFL, people over there, NFL.com graded them, ESPN graded them, how everyone saw these trades. They are very equivalent in what was exchanged, right? So Davante Adams went for a conditional third that could be as high as a second rounder, depending on sort of certain performance-based functions that he does inside of the New York Jets organization. Amari Cooper was traded to the Bills. They exchanged 6th round draft picks, and the Bills sent a third for Amari Cooper. So right there, both of these wide receivers went for 3rd round draft picks. Now, Amari Cooper is obviously a little younger. Davante Adams has performed better in recent memory. How much of that is the situation in Cleveland or the situation in Las Vegas? That's all what we're here to debate. And that is why, Matt, I'm going to ask you, did the Bills or the Jets get the better player in these trades? Who won the trade?
Well, first of all, Joe, obviously the Davante Adams news dropped a little bit earlier than the Amari Cooper news dropped. So when the Amari Cooper news dropped, I went to my Jets fan buddies and I was like, well, finally an impactful wide receiver trade in the AFC East. And they obviously didn't appreciate that whatsoever after I said that. But listen, both of these trades, I think, are going to have some impact, but I'm questionable as far as like how much impact, especially one of them in particular, is going to have. But to me, I think Amari Cooper is going to be the more impactful trade. And listen, Davante was traded from one toxic situation in the Raiders for a different one, but just this version of Rodgers is like not the best quarterback that he's played with, because the Green Bay version was way, way better than the version of Aaron Rodgers right now. Cooper just got traded from the Cleveland Browns to the Buffalo Bills, which is a massive quarterback upgrade for Amari Cooper, where, listen, we talked about Deshaun Watson a little bit. I saw an article from Bill Barnwell on ESPN that Deshaun Watson's off to the worst start in league history since 2007 of all quarterbacks. Out of 566 passers through 6 weeks, Watson ranks 558th, 565th, and 566th in QBR, yards per dropback, and first down rate. So Amari Cooper is going from literally the worst and also has been the most inaccurate quarterback in football, and Deshaun Watson. This stat from Warren Sharp: the highest rate of incompletions due to inaccurate passes since the start of 2023 is Deshaun Watson. He's going from literally the worst quarterback in football to one of the 5 best quarterbacks in football, and Josh Allen, who's in the middle of his prime, where we just saw the success of a receiver like Stephon Diggs going to Josh Allen and what it meant for that offense. So I think Cooper comes in there. He's going to become the immediate number 1 receiver there. And none of those other receivers are really even established in as far as like number 1 receivers go. And they fit much better as secondary options. Right now, Khalil Shakir, his role is not going to change. Curtis Samuel's role is not going to change. Keon Coleman isn't going to change too much. So now they can be just secondary pieces. Those guys, as far as Shakir, Samuel, and Coleman go, they can just be good secondary pieces as opposed to lead guys like they were kind of trying to be forced into. And now Amari Cooper can be that. So you look at Amari Cooper as well. He's put up really good numbers over the course of his career without ever really having a high-level quarterback. It's pretty staggering, actually. 7 out of 10 years, over 1,000 yards for Amari Cooper in his career, with Dak Prescott being the best quarterback he's ever played with. So obviously not like a super elite quarterback being the best one he's ever played with. Josh Allen's easily going to be the best quarterback he's ever played with. So he's also a year younger than Davante Adams. And again, I think the compensation and the money that they have to pay for Amari Cooper is a bargain as far as that goes as well. So because the Jets are having to pay Davante Adams' entire salary for this season, which I think is like 17, 18 million remaining. I don't remember how much it was, but something like that. So I like this a lot for Buffalo. Again, I think Davante Adams is going to make the Jets marginally better, but with everything that's going on in the Jets organization, I don't see how it's going to make them that much better. Again, they got a lot of things they got to work on. Their receiver core was actually probably one of the best parts of their offense. I don't think they really needed another number 1 receiver. So I think it's Amari Cooper to the Buffalo Bills. I think that's the best option. I think that's the best trade that was made for these 2 receivers.
Yeah, I mean, they're only paying Amari Cooper like $807,000 the rest of the way.
Crazy.
Like, that is a steal for a bona fide number 1 in the NFL. Like, you cannot find another number 1 wide receiver in the NFL right now who is making $807,000. Like, you cannot do it. It's not possible. I kind of disagree with you on the impact. I believe that a lot of the problems we have seen with the Jets organization was Nathaniel Hackett calling plays. They've demoted him. I think that, although the Robert Saleh firing was, even to Aaron Rodgers' point, was sort of, it caught the whole team off guard. That was a very, the Johnson brothers really went in there and were like, hey, this is happening. And they basically just met that morning and walked down to Saleh's office, and it was a 3-minute conversation apparently, and he was out of there. So yeah, he was, so we've already kind of covered how that all went and everything like that on a previous video. But I believe that, you're kind of seeing it now where, Woody Johnson is going, hey, everything is decided. We have our offensive coordinator, and their offense did look a little better. They got, Breece Hall involved. They started to move the ball a little bit better. They got their playmakers involved early on. What they were missing, and we've pointed out before, although it may have been one of the better parts of this team, they are missing a bona fide 1. And I believe that you and I both kind of agree that Garrett Wilson really isn't that. He's a borderline 1 in this NFL right now. He's more suited to a secondary role with a really true number 1 wide receiver. I think Davante Adams is going to provide that spark, his rapport with Aaron Rodgers. I think that, this is better than the Allen Lazard rapport with Aaron Rodgers, right? Like,
oh yeah,
if you could have one of those 2, you chose the right one in Davante Adams. I think that helps settle this offense down a little bit. I think that that's going to start getting things rolling for Aaron a little bit more. He has his security blanket back. I think, you've given him a wide receiver who much to what, Davante Adams has said, much to what Aaron Rodgers said, they kind of think the same. They see the game the same way. That's why they were so good together. I think that's why this is probably, in my book, a little bit better from a team standpoint. I have some concerns about Amari Cooper, some of the numbers I've seen about his yards of separation for his routes run. Has he lost a step? Is that more just the scheme or, the bad quarterback play or the bad offensive play? Like, was he just not interested in the offense anymore? And so he wasn't giving it 100%. Not to mention, you also have to take into consideration that Davante Adams is dealing with a soft tissue injury, which kind of makes me lean back towards Amari Cooper a little bit, especially playing on MetLife Field, which literally is known for like bad soft tissue shit. But I mean, I don't really know how to draw a line between these two. And that's why I said I'm kind of leaning away from you, kind of not right now. I think that these trades are almost identical in what you're getting. They're very, very similar. I think they've played like 7 different games, or Amari Cooper's played 7 less games than Davante Adams has. Adams has like 2,000 more yards. He also has 200 more targets. Like, I mean, it just goes to show you sort of that they're the same person in the same sort of style, where just more targets for Davante Adams got him more yards. That's all it really was just more targets. And he has had better quarterback play in more of his career than Amari Cooper has. And Amari Cooper has really performed admirably with subpar quarterback play. And so it all depends on if he still has anything left in the tank. The Browns' Amari Cooper we've seen through the first 6 weeks concerns me that he's starting to lose a step. And I don't think we're really going to know the winner of this until we start to get towards midseason a little bit, how healthy is Adams. He says he's great, he's ready to go, and could play as soon as their next game. Maybe the second game after being there, depending on how long it takes him to get spun up, see what his snap count looks like, things like that. But there's very, very little room from a player perspective and team impact perspective between these two trades. I don't see too much of a difference between the two. The value in Cooper makes me want to lean towards Cooper, but also the unknowns of if he's lost step make me want to lean back towards Adams. It's hard to tell, man. I'm gonna go with Adams for right now. I think the Jets, because of that rapport, I think the return is going to be sooner. You're going to see it earlier on. I think by the end of the season towards the playoffs, that's when the Amari Cooper trade may need to be reevaluated as being better.
Yeah. Listen, I think Adams is still the better player. I think Davante Adams is definitely the better receiver. I don't want to get that twisted. I think Amari Cooper is a really good receiver. He's been a really good receiver for a long time. Maybe if he had a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers earlier in his career, we'd be thinking about him like he's Davante Adams or something similar. But again, Davante's the better receiver. I don't want to get that twisted. But I think Cooper was the better trade. But listen, we both slander the Jets a lot. We both get on here and we both do it. I don't think it's intentional. It's really how I feel. And I was slandering the Jets today to one of my Jets buddies, and he's like, "Oh, you're a salty Patriots fan." I don't have anything to be salty about from a Patriots fan perspective. We've been whooping that ass for 25 years, man. I don't have anything to be salty about. We've been smoking y'all motherfuckers for 25 years. I don't have anything to be salty about. It's just how I feel. It's genuinely how I feel about the situation. But I do also have to say about the Jets, we've talked a lot about what Einstein said about the Jets, his famous quote, "Never trust the Jets." We've talked about that one a lot.
Probably a famous quote by Einstein.
which in this case, which obviously in the trades case could be true as well. Like, don't trust Davante to the Jets. You can never trust the Jets. But, Joe, I also want you to not forget about what Aristotle also once said about the Jets.
God. Yeah. How could I have forgotten, man? You
remember what he said?
Remind me. You got to tell me. I don't remember.
He said, "Thank God for the Jets." I don't always agree with the decisions they make, but dude, they are so entertaining. There is always something to talk about with the Jets right now. Every single week, there's a huge storyline about them. And Einstein and Aristotle's beliefs may sound conflicting, but they actually work together. The reason why we thank God for the Jets is because we can't trust them. They literally work directly together. And that right there is a beautiful thing. But another reason why I would go with the Amari Cooper signing here is we talked about basketball in a previous segment. I'm gonna blend football analysis with a basketball analogy here. Okay, this is for my NBA fans out there, and I'm not gonna take credit for this because I saw this comparison on Twitter, but I thought it was accurate. Okay, Joe, do you remember when James Harden went to the Clippers?
Oh yeah, how could I forget?
Do you remember when Bradley Beal went to the Suns?
Yeah.
Do you remember when Russell Westbrook went to the Lakers?
Yeah.
Formerly great players who still have great name value, right? Might still be really good, but they just don't have the same actual impact that they used to have. Then when they get traded, everyone's like, oh, they're going to win it all. It's going to be blah, blah, blah. But when in reality, maybe they made their team slightly better, but also it might be not a great fit. And to me, that's the Davante Adams situation right now, okay? Adams should make them better with the obvious connection with Aaron Rodgers. He's, like I said, he's still a really good receiver. I saw people saying top 5. I don't think he's top 10 anymore, personally. I think he's on the fringe of the top 10 maybe, but he's not a top 10, top 5 receiver to me anymore. He's still really good, but not in that echelon. But again, it's going to make them better in reality and much better on paper. However, I think it's going to be more of a marginal impact, and I don't think this move is going to put them over the top in their own division, obviously with Buffalo making the Cooper move as well. So let alone the Super Bowl or the AFC Championship game. I think Buffalo, Baltimore, Houston, and Kansas City are all obviously still better. That makes them maybe a playoff team, but after a 2-4 start, it's going to be rough. You got to go, if to get to 9-8, you got to go 7-4 down the stretch, and they've got some tough games down the stretch. So again, I don't think it's going to be that big of an impact for them on the football field. But goddamn, you gotta love the Jets. Thank God for the Jets. They make it so entertaining to talk about, man. You gotta love the Jets for that.
Man, I mean, at this point, we're almost making our own, the laws of physics. These are the laws of the Jets.
Man,
you have like Boyle's law, and
Murphy's law,
Charles' law, Murphy's law, Cole's law of conservation of energy. Now we got the laws of the Jets. We got the the Einstein's law of the Jets and Aristotle's law of the Jets, where it's don't trust the Jets, but like you said, thank fucking God they do the things they do, and they continue to jet, because I don't think I'd have near as much fun watching football if the Jets organization didn't exist.
For real, yeah, there's no doubt about it. And again, there's so many different things to consider with this Davante Adams situation as well. Like we talked about, Wilson's not really a one. Do you think Wilson thinks about himself like that? I think Wilson thinks he's the one. So another alpha comes in there. How's Garrett Wilson going to feel about that? Allen Lazard used to be in the number 2. Now he's going to be the number 3. How's Allen Lazard going to think about that? Mike Williams was making, Pro Bowls with the Chargers, and now he signs a 1-year deal to come over to the Jets. And now to kind of prove himself and be on a winning team. Now you're on a losing team, and you're the number 4 receiver on the team, and Aaron Rodgers is publicly blaming you in post-game press conferences. So, all those egos combined, with Aaron Rodgers' ego, who's also a massive ego human being, I don't know how that's all going to gel. I think things like locker room chemistry could come into factor. I think things that we don't normally consider could come into play here, and obviously also, these aren't the only flaws with the Jets. Their kicker can't make a 32-yard field goal. Their defense just got cooked by Josh Allen without having any real weapons on the outside, so I think there's much more issues with the Jets than Davante Adams. So all that is why I'm going with Amari.
This has been Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details.